Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies such as bushfires and floods. And in recent weeks, Symphony 3 has been working with councils around Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Making news on the roundup, pressure mounts on a city mayor to resign. A New South Wales council floats a plan for a 4-day week. A mayor's off-mic moment becomes public. Industrial action set to disrupt services across 8 Melbourne councils. A $10 million legal bill successfully challenged by a council in court. Residents set to protest the New South Wales Council's planned budget cuts. Controversial changes to committee appointments on the Gold Coast. And council meeting lunches get the chop in Auckland. Hello there, I'm Chris Eddy. Welcome back to the Local Government News Roundup, catching you up on happenings across the local government sector across Australia and beyond. Also today, we'll flash back to what was making news 3 years ago this week. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. It's Tuesday the 7th of April 2026, and here are our top 3 stories today on the Local Government News Roundup. Pressure is continuing to mount on Wyndham Mayor Preet Singh, with the local government minister the latest to call on him to resign. According to the Herald Sun, Minister Nick Stakos described Councillor Singh's character reference for a child sex offender as sickening and said he thinks he should step down permanently. Councillor Singh relinquished mayoral duties temporarily last week, asking Deputy Mayor Jasmine Hill to step in as acting mayor. He did not give a timeline for his return to the role or otherwise. All 10 remaining Wyndham councillors have called for Councillor Singh's resignation, and in a development just prior to the Easter break, the Wyndham councillors announced they'd written to Minister Stakos requesting that he use his powers to remove Councillor Singh from the council. In New South Wales, Murrumbidgee Council is considering a 4-day compressed work week as it tries to stay on top of rising costs without hitting residents with a special rate rise. Under the proposal, staff would still work their full hours, but across 4 longer days from Monday to Thursday. Offices, depots and libraries would be closed on Fridays. The General Manager, John Scarce, says it's about working smarter, not cutting services, and keeping customer service hours intact through longer daily opening times. Earlier this year, of course, Launceston City Council in Tasmania attempted to get a 4-day work week ratified in enterprise bargaining negotiations. That plan was abandoned after coming under extreme pressure from ratepayers and stakeholders and abuse towards council staff members. And an off-mic moment is now on the record in the city of Wanneroo after Mayor Linda Aitken was caught on a live microphone swearing during a long council meeting. Perth Now reported the slip came during debate over safety and access at a marina as the mayor called a short break while councillors were out of the room. A clip later circulated in a local residents' Facebook group, prompting criticism about standards in the chamber. The council says it's aware of the comments and is addressing the matter, but it hasn't shared details. And those are today's top 3 stories on the Roundup. Back to Victoria now for more news, and Hume City Council has warned of potential disruptions to bin collections this week due to industrial action by ASU members. Marybeck and Darebin councils are also reportedly affected by the 24-hour stoppage, which is part of a campaign for a multi-enterprise agreement with a 22% pay rise sought over 4 years. It's understood around 70 workers are involved in a strike today, and there are plans to escalate action across 8 metropolitan councils, with potential bans on other services in the coming weeks. The City of Melbourne says its draft budget sets a direction for a more livable CBD and inner neighbourhoods. The plan totals around $804 million, with a small surplus and a capital works program worth $175 million. It includes more money for safety and cleaning and a push to green the city with new and upgraded parks and up to 3,000 trees. Rates are set to rise by 2.75%. Central Goldfields Shire has been making news with its draft budget and the need to save millions from the bottom line. The council is floating the closure of 3 rubbish transfer stations at Bialaba, Denali and Talbot as it hunts for those savings. ABC News reported the plan would leave just the Carrisbrook site near Maryborough as the only local option. Residents say that means longer drives and higher costs, and they warn illegal dumping could rise. Chief Executive Peter Harriott says waste services are running a multi-million-dollar deficit, and without cuts, the council's cash position won't be sustainable. Maribyrnong City Council has lodged an objection to a ministerial planning application for an expansion of the next DC data centre near Stony Creek. Mayor Councillor Mohammed Semra says council understands the need for data infrastructure, but argues the proposal does not do enough to protect the Creek corridor. Concerns include the scale of the buildings, overshadowing, and the impact on people who use the creek and nearby residents during construction. The countdown is on to the closure of Yallourn W Power Station in July 2028, and La Trobe City Council says the region needs a coordinated plan for jobs transition. Councillors have endorsed a submission to the Net Zero Economy Authority, backing an energy industry jobs plan with clear obligations for employers and practical support to move people into new work. Mayor Councillor Sharon Gibson says the closure will affect the whole community and the plan needs to give workers and families real security. And Baw Baw Shire Council is having a rethink of its aquatic and leisure centre operations, deciding in a confidential council session not to award a new management contract. It's discussing extending existing operations by 12 months with current provider YMCA Victoria, and it's reviewing future service options in the meantime. Some more Victorian news in brief. Alpine Shire Council has taken a step towards a 24-hour cat curfew, testing the idea in its draft domestic animal management plan, which is now on public exhibition. The curfew is proposed to help protect native wildlife and reduce unwanted litters of kittens. The La Trobe City Council by-election is set for the 1st of August. Morwell River Ward voters will elect a replacement for Tracy Lund, who resigned last month. Close of nominations is 12 noon on Tuesday the 23rd of June. And Macedon Rangers Shire Council has decided to formally conclude its sister city relationship with Tokai City in Japan after more than 15 years. A review found the relationship no longer fits current strategic, economic or community goals, with limited engagement since the COVID-19 pandemic. This is the Local Government News Roundup for Tuesday the 7th of April, catching up on some news from just before the Easter break, and we'll head into New South Wales in just a moment. As we start our 6th year of the Roundup, we take an opportunity each week to look back at some of the stories that were making news on our program in years gone by, and this week we go back through the flashback machine to April of 2023. New land use planning protocols have been introduced to Casey City Council's Councillor Code of Conduct. The changes have been made ahead of the release of the Operation Sandon report from IBAC. A Queensland council has been hit by a ransomware attack, leading to many of its services being taken offline on the weekend. In Western Australia, the CEO at the City of Wanneroo has resigned after 20 years with the council, including 15 in the top job. Daniel Sims is making the move to head up the City of Coburg. At Randwick Council, a narrow majority vote has backed a $10 million proposal to create an artificial scuba reef off Coogee Beach. And they were just some of the stories making news in This Week back in April 2023. Let's get back to the news from this week here in 2026 and in New South Wales now. A Sydney-based lawyer and a series of associated firms have been hit with major costs orders after the New South Wales Supreme Court found that Broken Hill City Council was charged far more than it should have been. Justice Elizabeth Peden says the lawyer billed as much as $10 million, including rate rises, days claiming more than 30 hours of work, and a 25% uplift fee that was never agreed. Lawyers Weekly reported that the court ordered trust money be repaid and sent the matter to a costs expert to calculate the full overcharge. The lawyers' cross-claims were dismissed. Kiama Council says it's heading into a make-or-break budget year with a projected $4.5 million deficit and a New South Wales government order that requires the books to be balanced by the end of 2026-27. An extraordinary meeting today will consider tougher budget settings, including possible staff cuts, market testing waste collection and changes to some services. CEO Jane Stroud says a new independent report on the Blue Haven Terralong Retirement Village found maintenance costs of about $51.2 million, far beyond what the council can cover. The Illawarra Mercury reports today that some residents are planning a protest against the planned budget cuts outside the council chambers on Tuesday evening, with concerns also raised by Kiama MP Caitlin McInerney. It's do or die for a pocket of sports fields in Sydney's north, according to Ryde City Council, with the state government rezoning plan now out for public comment. Ryde Mayor Trenton Brown is urging residents to lodge objections, as the proposal would open up 6.2 hectares at TG Milner Fields in Marsfield for about 132 low-rise homes. Councillor Brown says Ryde is already taking on its share of housing growth, and they want the state and federal government to help the council buy the land for community sport instead. It's been reported that Canterbury Bankstown Council was warned years ago about an unapproved prayer hall in Bankstown, but only moved to shut it after last year's Bondi Beach attack put the site under renewed scrutiny. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, Freedom of Information documents show staff flagged the site as likely operating without development consent and suspected weekend tutoring on the premises, but an early investigation was shelved. After the Bondi shootings, officers returned for surveillance, reported seeing a congregation and issued a cease-use directive. The former operator, Preacher Wissim Haddad, has not been charged and there's no suggestion of involvement in the attack. More than 60 councils across New South Wales are warning fuel shortages and higher prices could disrupt garbage and waste collections unless the state guarantees supply. The mayors, led by LG New South Wales President Darcy Byrne, want any extra fuel costs subsidised through the waste levy that councils already pay. That's nearly $900 million this year. Councillor Byrne says councils are on the front line of basic services and communities should not carry the blow alone. In Sydney's inner west, a 2-year fight over asbestos-contaminated mulch is still playing out. Inner West Mayor Darcy Byrne says the New South Wales EPA has accepted a $150,000 enforceable undertaking from contractors John Holland and CPB, sending the money to Safe Work New South Wales in a deal that avoids prosecution. Councillor Byrne calls it loose change, arguing the firms made billions on the Rozelle interchange and parklands and that their clean-up response was slow and under-resourced. He says there should be stronger consequences to ensure the crisis is never repeated. And in Western New South Wales, Warren Shire Council says it wants answers about a reported federal plan to buy up local farmland for carbon projects tied to the net zero target. Mayor Greg Whiteley and General Manager Gary Woodman say the Shire has heard little detail, including what properties are involved and why Warren has been singled out in the Western Plains. The Western Plains app reported that the issue surfaced after Senate estimates heard about net zero modelling. Nationals MP Jamie Chaffey says it risks food and fibre production and could erode council rate income. But the federal government says the impacts will be limited. Let's go to Queensland now. Gold Coast City Council's most influential planning committee is being reshaped after Mayor Tom Tate pushed through a change that split councillors 9 votes to 6, according to the Gold Coast Bulletin. The move demotes an outspoken councillor and has drawn sharp criticism from colleagues who say it concentrates power in a small group making big planning calls. Supporters argue the changes will streamline decision-making, but the close vote shows the tension inside the chamber. South Burnett Regional Council is warning that some projects may need to be delayed or rescoped due to rising fuel prices and supply chain disruptions. The council says cost pressures are climbing across its own operations, while contractors are flagging price hikes of 30% or more. Mayor Cathy Duff says the focus will be on core services and on keeping flood-damaged roads moving forward. Meanwhile, Bundaberg Mayor and LGAQ President Matt Burnett has called for councils to be treated as essential services so waste collection and other critical work can keep running if fuel supplies tighten. Moreton Bay Council is urging the Queensland Government to bring forward the Bruce Highway Western alternative with a target of 2032 instead of the current estimate of 2041. Mayor Peter Flannery says the Bruce Highway is a daily car park and delays are already creating uncertainty for planning and investment. He warns the pressure will only build as new areas expand with more homes, more jobs and more vehicles. The council says without a firm commitment and clear timelines, congestion and safety risks will worsen across the region. And illegal dumping is back in the spotlight in Douglas Shire, with the council seeking funding to keep its surveillance program running. The Shire plans to apply for a $295,000 state grant to retain a dedicated illegal dumping officer and monitoring through to 2029. Mayor Lisa Scomazon says the work protects waterways, rainforests and public spaces, and she says enforcement is already making a difference. The council argues ongoing funding would help keep pressure on repeat offenders and reduce clean-up costs for ratepayers. To Tasmania, Brighton Council has voted to waive general rates for 12 months for eligible first home builders, as long as they can show they qualify for the state government's first home builder grant. Brighton Mayor Lee Gray says the aim is to make settling into a new home a little easier at a time when building costs are tight. The council says the general rate is typically around $1,100 to $1,260 a year, and it calls the move a practical boost for young Tasmanians looking to build locally. In Hobart, the Mercury reports that dog owners are about to lose off-leash access to South Hobart Oval and the nearby Hobart Rivulet Track after the council voted to tighten its dog policy from the 1st of July. 7 councillors backed the change, with Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds among 5 who opposed it. The dispute has simmered for years between local dog walkers and the South Hobart Football Club, which leases the ground and says dogs have damaged the surface. Hobart Dog Walking Association President Tansy Lewis says the review has divided the community. The council says it will spend $180,000 on a new fenced off-lead dog park at Lower Wellesley Park before the ban begins. And Glenorchy City Council has signed on to a new statement of commitment to LGBTIQA+ inclusion, along with a 5-year action plan for practical change. Mayor Sue Hickey says it's about making the city safer and more welcoming for the LGBTIQA+ community and for staff inside the organisation. The plan will roll out in stages, including training, partnerships and reviews of council policies and systems. Catching up on some South Australian news, residents in Underdale will see a new set of eyes on Armour Avenue this week as the City of West Torrens deploys a mobile CCTV unit called Iris. The council says it's there for 7 days to track trucks using the street as a through route. It says the camera is used from time to time to support public safety and it's not about general surveillance. Any footage will only be checked if someone can give a specific date and time linked to a safety concern, and anything relevant may be passed on to South Australian Police. The City of Salisbury has launched a new ability inclusion strategy, a 4-year plan with 42 actions to make it easier for people with disability to access council places, services, events, jobs and civic life. The strategy was built with the community and the Disability Access and Inclusion Network, and it backs steps already underway like staff training, early consultation and universal design. And Port Adelaide is getting ready to turn its streets and waterfront into one big stage as Newfound Sound returns next month. The free all-ages festival runs on Saturday the 9th of May with 40 acts across 10 venues in and around historic Port Adelaide. Organisers say the event has grown quickly, attracting more than 5,500 music lovers. And from Western Australia, in the city of Canning, Mayor Patrick Hall says local government won't truly reflect the community until voting is compulsory. Perth Now reported that he told councillors turnout is about 30%, and in optional preferential voting, winners can need only half of that to get elected. Mayor Hall argues making people vote, even if some donkey vote, would give councils a clearer mandate, like in state and federal polls. But councillors have voted 8-3 against the change, warning compulsory voting could invite party politics and push up election costs. And the City of Stirling will start a 6-month FOGO trial in Coolbinia from mid-May. For households in the trial, the lime green garden bin becomes a food and garden organics bin collected every week, while the red general waste bin moves to fortnightly pickup. Mayor Mark Irwin says with 250,000 residents, Stirling wants to test what works before any wider rollout and get some honest feedback from locals. Just ahead of the Global Report, a reminder that the second Global Civility Summit is almost upon us. It's coming up at the end of next week. It's a Friday morning time in Australia, Thursday in the afternoon or evening, depending on where you are across North America. You can find out more by heading to caelanacademy.com/Civility Summit, and make sure you join the visionary civic leaders and sages who are sharing tools and wisdom to foster a culture of civility. Diane Kaelan-Sucre and I will co-host, and we're really looking forward to having you with us wherever you are across the world as we continue to tackle the issue of incivility in public life. caelanacademy.com/Civility Summit to find out more. The event is proudly supported by the Victorian Local Governance Association. Now for some news out of New Zealand. Firstly, in Auckland, Mayor Wayne Brown says councillors will no longer be served lunch during full council meetings after a flare-up over the city's catering bill. Auckland Council spent around $1.4 million on food and drink in the year to March, and close to $5 million over 4 years, including large totals at Auckland Transport and Watercare. Mayor Brown says the issue has become a distraction and he wants attention on bigger spending decisions, but others say it's actually about a lack of a clear catering policy, and there are calls for tighter rules on when catering is approved, according to RNZ. Napier's first-term mayor, Richard McGrath, has agreed to mentoring after councillors confronted him over how the council is being run. Stuff reports that the move follows months of tension, including an unsuccessful push to remove voting rights for Maori committee members and the resignation of an executive assistant who cited concerns about respect for treaty principles. The dispute escalated in February when McGrath removed Deputy Mayor Sally Crown. A group of councillors then sent a letter calling for better consultation, transparency and communication, and set out a list of actions they wanted him to accept. There's reportedly now a shared understanding of what better leadership and governance should look like. To the US, and tragedy in Florida, where the Vice Mayor of Coral Springs, Nancy Matea Bowen, has been found dead at her home during a welfare check last week. Investigators say it was a domestic incident, according to FloridaPolitics.com, and her husband, Stephen Bowen, has now been charged with first-degree premeditated murder, as well as evidence tampering. Authorities say he was tracked down a short time later using licence plate readers. Ms. Matea Bowen was 38, an environmental scientist and a trailblazing Haitian-American leader in local government. Several towns in Massachusetts are dealing with a cyber attack on a regional emergency communications centre. Officials say the attack affected phone and business lines for police and fire in the towns of Ashby, Dunstable, Pepperell and Townsend. Town leaders say they've brought in insurers and cyber security specialists, as well as state and federal law enforcement, to assess what was hit and what data might be exposed. So far, they say there's no evidence private information has been shared, according to WCVB News. And in eastern Oregon, a lawsuit in the small city of Elgin is turning a dispute over spending records into a public fight over reputation and retaliation. Former city administrator Brock Eckstein and his spouse, attorney Laura Eckstein, have filed a $3 million complaint against the city, its mayor and current city administrator. The city says a forensic audit flagged improper credit card charges and missing records including nearly $25,000 in personal expenses alleged over several years. The ex-teens say contracts allowed the spending and claim the investigation and withheld pay were retaliation. A judge will hear the city's motion to strike the complaint next week. And as Britain heads towards local elections in May, the Electoral Commission is warning intimidation is driving candidates off the campaign trail. New research suggests 6 in 10 candidates faced harassment or threats, and many say they're avoiding public events out of fear. Chief Executive Vijay Rangarajan says the abuse comes at a personal cost and is damaging democracy. The Commission is working with police on a national coordination operation and issuing tailored safety advice. Councils in England say they're not the bottleneck in the housing crisis as new numbers back them up. A survey of 62 council areas finds barely half the homes granted planning permission since 2012 have actually been built. That's about 633,000 approved, but around 331,000 completed. More than 200,000 approved homes still haven't started construction, even as government targets demand new supply. And police in England have dropped an investigation into a right-wing Facebook page after it shared a fake letter that appeared to come from Worcestershire County Council. The post claimed the council had set aside £70,000 for British flagpoles. The council reported it to police, and the force initially said it was assessing whether any offences had been committed. Police now say while false information can cause concern, they're not treating this incident as a criminal matter. And that's all we have for episode 571 of the Local Government News Roundup. There'll be another episode this week as we catch up from the Easter break, and all being well, we'll return to our regular schedule next week. If you have any comments or feedback about the show, you can send it to chris@lgnewsroundup.com. You can head to lgnewsroundup.com for more information about the episode, including story links and much more from our brand new website. The podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. The Roundup is recorded in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.